Just during the last 4 weeks, 4 of the international candidates I'm working with currently landed their interviews offshore, 2 in Australia, 2 in New Zealand, and 2 of them landed offers and are now in the processes of applying for their visas. What is significant about this is that none of them were onshore, none of them, not one of the 4, applied for any jobs online. Instead, they utilized something completely different to make those job offers appear and have those interviews, and were successful. And what they did is utilized a network. So in this video, I'm going to take you through how they did this, what they did in creating this network and utilizing this network, and how it can potentially help you in landing your overseas role, even if you are offshore. If you don't know who I am, I'm Sorelsi, an international career strategist and migration mentor, and I've helped 500 or more international candidates during the last decade land their overseas roles across the world in many countries. If you're considering working with me one-on-one, you'll find a link below this video to a form, which is an application form for my service to work one-on-one with me. So in this video, let's look at what these candidates did differently. So like I said, they were all offshore. They did not apply for their jobs online, and they were able to land these interviews and land these offers. And in 3 of the 4 cases, they were the only candidate for the role, which is such a great negotiating position to be in. So what they did differently is they utilized a network. Now, before you go, but I don't have a network overseas, what do I do? They didn't have one either. They utilized the network that they created during this process. So first step here is creating that overseas network. And that sounds really, really difficult. I know what you're going to say, but I don't know anyone overseas. How am I going to know who to put into this network or how to find these people? There is actually a proper structured process that I work with candidates to take them through the 2 phases of building that network. So number 1, phase 1 is curating or building that network or audience. And in that phase, we have a couple of steps. Step number 1 is finding the ideal hiring managers overseas. And in that sense, we need to make sure that those ideal hiring managers are within the ideal employers you want to work for. Why would you want to connect to anyone else, right? You can connect to anyone overseas, but why would it be someone that is not inside your ideal companies or organizations overseas? So they must be within your ideal hiring managers. For that, you need to know who those organizations are. So when I work with international candidates, I actually find those organizations for them so that then we can go into them and look for those specific hiring managers. So that's number 1, inside your ideal employers. Number 2 is they must be in decision-making positions. That's really, really important. Why would you want to connect to someone who can't make a decision about whether they want you or not? So it's really important to understand the different dynamics of different organizations. For example, if you are going to be targeting small businesses in your niche or your occupation, whatever you're going to do overseas, you're potentially going to speak to the boss. That person in a company of 10 to 15, maybe even 20 to 50, people, that boss, the person who's the owner or the manager of that business, they will make all the decisions. That's the person you need to find and get in front of. That's the person you're going to try and find on LinkedIn and get them into your audience. And number 3 is they must be active on LinkedIn. I can't tell you how many times I've done this with so many people, so many candidates, and then they're coming back to me and say, but I sent so many connection requests, but no one is answering. Well, are those people even active on LinkedIn? So there's ways to look at whether you're actually connecting to people who are active and see your connection request. So that's the 3rd point. Number 4 is a bonus of finding these people. If they have something in common with you, if they're in the same niche, if they have the same background, if they come from the same place, there's lots of things that they can have in common. That's actually a bonus, because in the second phase, where you're going to start talking to them or engaging and interacting with them, these commonalities act as icebreakers in conversations, or something that you can use to actually start those conversations with. So those four things are the golden rules of how to find these ideal hiring managers inside your overseas employers. They must be inside your employers, they must be hiring managers, they must be decision makers, in other words. They must be active on LinkedIn. And then, of course, if they have something in common with you, it makes it so much easier. So that way, you're going to find these people. Then you're going to send a connection request only. No CV, no asking for job, just a connection request saying you found them and looking at roles overseas and you would love to connect because you would like to know more about the industry. That's it. I will leave a script of that connection request for you below this video in the text. If you are interested in utilizing that, you can modify it as you wish. Which brings us to the second phase. Phase one is finding the ideal hiring managers and building that audience. Second is, now you've got this big audience, what are you going to do with them? This is the crux of visibility. We call it strategic proximity. So when I work with these international candidates, I let them then start doing things, tactics and strategies, to become visible to these people, the individuals that they have in their audience. And that is something a little bit more advanced. However, it is highly, highly effective. For example, 2 of these candidates in the last 4 weeks who've landed their interviews only sent one message to one person and landed interviews. That was it. They did not need 100 online applications. They didn't need anything else. They just sent that one message because of the actions and tactics and strategies that they implemented a couple of weeks before they sent this message. So these tactics come down to enable or empower you for strategic proximity. That means you need to become familiar or visible to these people that you have in your audience. There's a number of things you can do there. You can like, you can comment, you can participate in discussions, you can ask questions, you can answer questions. Huge amount of things you can do depending on the niche and the individuals and the situation. So a variety of different situations will lead you to do a variety of different things. Not everything fits everywhere, but it's dependent on the individual situation. This is why I like working with people one-on-one, because I can analyze that specific situation, the specific people they need to talk to, and curate specific messages and tactics that they can take so they become really familiar with those hiring managers, or hiring managers become familiar with them through strategic proximity. Tactics that work in their situation might not work the same for someone else in a different niche. Nevertheless, this is phase two. So phase one is building that audience, finding the people. Phase two is taking the actions to become visible through strategic proximity. So that visibility, we actually can measure it. We can check if it is working. And that's something really important that we do, because we check whether someone is looking, who is looking, and then take actions based on those views and with the people who are looking at those profiles to mine those warm leads. Yes, people looking at your profile, they're warm leads, and those are the ones that you can start actual conversations with. And there's a set of strategic proximity tactics in there that we take it forward. So during this whole time, you would start with a funnel with 100 to 500 connections or an audience, individuals inside your audience. You would narrow it down to strategic proximity tactics with, say, 20 to 50 people inside that audience. And you would narrow that down to, say, 5 to 10 conversations with individuals that will lead to interviews and offers, like it did for these other candidates. I will put up some testimonials on the screen here, or just stories of people who have done it in the past. Obviously, it's not part of the 4 that we've done in these last 4 weeks, because they have not landed their visas yet, so I can't share their details and I don't have their permission. But there are people who have been generous enough before or prior to doing the same thing. They've used the same strategies. This is the overview of that whole Magic 500 strategy, or the network and relationship building strategy that we implement with our one-on-one elite career mentor candidates to help them land these offers. Like I say, we aim for three things: visibility, a lot of visibility. We aim for strategic proximity to the right people, very targeted, laser focused. And we aim for the cherry on the cake, which is being the only candidate in front of those hiring managers before a job is advertised. That's huge. That means you have no competitors, nobody to compete with, better bargaining, better negotiating position. Like I said, if you're interested in working with me in any of this and in the Elite Career Mentor one-on-one programs to help you implement some of these strategies, the Magic 500 is just one international job search strategy. There is a link on the screen. It's also in the description below this video, and you can apply to work with me one-on-one. So tell me, which of this resonated with you, and also which of these two phases in relationship building in your job search are you finding the most difficult? Finding the people, in other words, building the audience, or getting in front of them and building the visibility? Those are two distinct phases in building relationships, or the networking relationship building strategy. And I want to know from you, is there anything else that you're finding difficult? Leave it in the comments for me, or even if you found this video helpful, I would appreciate if you subscribe and get more videos and content like this, or ask any question below this video. Until next time, take care.